Back in 2005, a man named Steve Kennedy walked onto a stage in Kentucky and collected a check that changed tournament fishing forever. He had just won the FLW Tour on Kentucky Lake against the best in the country. But the weapon that sealed his victory was not a $100 Japanese lure. It was not a custom rod or a $10,000 electronics setup on his boat. It was a $3 tube of Superglue from a gas station off the highway. $3. That is what it cost to beat the best anglers in America. And what he did with that tube of glue is still being used by champions today in every major bass tournament from the Bassmaster Elite to the Bass Pro Tour. But here is the part that should make every angler in this country angry. The tackle industry has known about this trick for almost 20 years now, and they have never once told you about it in any advertisement or product guide. Because if you knew this one trick, you would stop buying replacement soft plastics every single time your old ones got torn up after a couple of fish catches. And that right there is money that goes straight from your wallet into the pockets of Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's without you even thinking twice. Welcome to American Fishing, the channel where we rescue the knowledge the tackle industry wanted buried so they could sell you more gear. If you're new here, subscribe right now and hit that bell icon so you never miss a single secret that we dig up for you every week. Today, I'm going to show you 5 real tricks used by tournament champions, proven in official competitions where hundreds of thousands of dollars are on the line. Simple tricks that cost pennies and outperform gear that costs hundreds of dollars at your local tackle shop or the big box stores that dominate this industry. Let us start with the Superglue trick that won Kennedy his title. When you fish with soft plastic baits like Senkos or creature baits, you know exactly what happens after 2 or 3 solid hook sets on base. The bait tears and slides down the hook and eventually falls off in the water. And what does 90% of anglers do when that happens out there? They toss the torn bait overboard and rig up a brand new one from the bag. That is exactly what the tackle companies want you to do every single time. But what Kennedy did during those tournament days was completely different. Before rigging his soft plastic on the hook, he would place a single drop of Superglue on the shank and then slide the bait up over the glue. The adhesive locks the bait in position without affecting its natural action. The practical result was that one bait lasted him 6, 8, even 10 fish. While his competitors were burning precious tournament minutes re-rigging, Kennedy kept casting and catching without losing a single second of fishing time. On the Bass Pro Tour today, where winners now take home $150,000, the anglers who make the championship round use this exact trick. Because at that level, every wasted second is money left on the table for someone else. But this glue trick is just one of the secrets that tournament pros guard closely. There are more than a dozen techniques like this that never reach the average angler. I have gathered all of them in a complete guide called The Angler's Vault. The 12 ancestral techniques that work better than any industrial lure. The water reading secrets that professional anglers hide from the public. And the homemade baits that cost pennies and outperform $100 lures. All in one place, no fluff, straight to the point. It is in the first link in the description below this video. But stay with me because this video is just getting started right now. The second trick is even more surprising than the first one I showed you. You know those Sharpie permanent markers that you have lying around the house? Tournament pros on the Bassmaster circuit carry 25 different colors in their tackle boxes during every single professional competition event. And they are not using them to write notes in any fishing journal or logbook. They are using them to customize and modify their lures right on the water. What they do is so simple that it almost sounds too good to be true. They take any artificial lure and draw a thin red line with the marker right where the gill plate would be located on an actual living baitfish. This imitates the visual appearance of a wounded bleeding prey in the water, and largemouth bass, walleye, catfish, and every major predator species are hardwired by evolution to attack injured prey before healthy ones. A study conducted at the University of Alabama confirmed that predatory fish respond up to 40% more aggressively toward lures that simulate some kind of visible wound or bleeding pattern compared to clean, unmarked lures. 40% more strikes using a $3 pack of Sharpie markers. And there's another detail that makes this technique even more effective. Depending on the water clarity conditions at the lake you are fishing that day, the pros will change the color scheme of their lure right there in the boat. Stained muddy water in the Louisiana bayous, they darken the belly of the bait. Crystal clear water on a lake in East Texas, natural tones and reflective shades. No tackle shop in America teaches you this because it is bad for their business. If they taught you this trick, you would buy one pack of lures and customize them for every water condition, instead of buying 10 different colors off the rack. This is the pattern that repeats itself with every champion I have ever studied. They simplify what the industry deliberately complicated just to sell more product. And now comes the third trick, which is the most counterintuitive one of all. Tournament champions fish into the wind, not with it at their backs. Yes, deliberately and strategically, straight into the wind hitting their face. Most weekend anglers look for the sheltered, calm side of the lake to fish, where the wind does not mess with their casting accuracy or their comfort. But Ish Monroe, a multi-tournament winner on the professional base circuit, explained the logic behind this approach in a way that makes perfect sense. Bass always swim against the current that wind pushes across the water surface. When you fish with the wind hitting you in the face on the front of the boat, your bait reaches the fish before your hull noise and your shadow ever could, and the sound of your trolling motor and hull slapping water carries downwind, away from the fish, instead of right toward them where it spooks the whole school. On the Great Lakes, in Florida's farm ponds, on Toledo Bend and Lake Fork, this technique works exactly the same way and completely changes the outcome. Now pay close attention, because the fourth trick completely changes the way you should think about preparation before fishing any competitive event. Professional tournament anglers do something during practice that sounds insane. They cut the points off their hooks before heading out for practice days. That is right, they go out fishing with hooks that cannot catch a single thing. And the reason behind this is far more intelligent than most people realize. In professional-based tournaments, there's a strict rule about practice days. If you catch a fish during the official pre-tournament practice, you get disqualified. So the champions need to locate where the biggest concentrations of bass are, test which baits draw the most strikes, and map the most productive spots, without accidentally hooking a single fish that could end their tournament run. The solution the professionals came up with is cutting the hook points clean off. They feel the thump of a bass attacking, and they know the bait pattern works, but the fish escapes, because the blunted hook cannot penetrate the mouth at all. This method lets them test dozens of different bait presentations and locations without wasting a single fish that could be worth points on competition day. And right here in America, this strategy applies perfectly to your weekend fishing. How many times have you shown up at a new lake without any real information, without knowing which baits produce in that water or the right depth to target, and without a clue about where the fish are actually concentrated that season? Champions never fish blind because they always scout and prepare beforehand. Training with clipped hooks lets them do this without harming or keeping fish. It works on farm ponds in Georgia, reservoirs in Tennessee, and rivers in Ohio. And it costs nothing at all beyond an old pair of pliers already in your tackle box. But now we arrive at the fifth and final trick I have saved for you today. And this is the one that impressed me the most when I first discovered it. Tournament pros use a small disc of craft foam glued behind the jig skirt to hold fish attractant scent active for an entire day of competitive fishing. The Texas legend Tommy Biffle revealed this technique in a Bassmaster interview that almost nobody saw because it was published in a small regional article. What he does is punch out small circles of craft foam using a metal tube cutter, each one about the size of a dime, nothing bigger than that for proper fit. Then he slides that tiny foam disc up behind the rubber skirt of his jig and locks it in place with a single drop of Superglue so it stays put all day. Before making his first cast, he applies liquid fish attractant directly onto the foam. The foam absorbs the scent like a sponge and slowly releases it for hours on end. While anglers who squirt attractant directly on their baits lose the effect in minutes, the jig with the foam disc behind the skirt maintains fragrance for hours straight. This technique costs literally pennies and makes an enormous difference in results, especially with largemouth bass and catfish that rely heavily on scent when feeding. And the most frustrating part of this whole thing is thinking about how much money the tackle industry makes selling expensive bottles of attractant that run out fast. If they taught you the foam trick, a single bottle would last you 6 full months, but they would rather you burn through a bottle every 2 weeks without knowing. Now I want you to stop for a second and think about everything you just learned. 5 tricks that tournament champions actually use in official competitions today. Superglue to lock soft plastics and fish all day without wasting time re-rigging. Sharpie markers to simulate wounded prey and draw 40% more strikes. Fishing into the wind, so your bait reaches base before your boat noise ever does. Clipped hooks during practice to scout without catching and wasting fish resources. Craft foam with attractant behind the jig skirt to hold scent active for hours. Not a single one of these tricks costs more than $5 to put into action. And every one of them outperforms hundreds of dollars of gear from the tackle store. This is the truth that the fishing industry does not want circulating among anglers, because the day that American fishermen understand that knowledge and observation are worth more than expensive equipment is the day the industry loses its grip. Your grandfather did not have forward-facing sonar or Garmin LiveScope on his boat. He did not have custom-wrapped rods or Japanese swim baits that cost $50 each. And yet, he consistently caught more fish with more skill and more understanding than most anglers fishing today with every piece of modern technology available. What he had was knowledge passed down through generations of patient observation, decades of reading water and understanding how bass behave in different conditions, and total confidence in techniques that he personally tested and refined over years. The modern tackle industry took all of that inherited wisdom and replaced it with expensive products that solve problems the industry itself invented first. It is like creating the disease and then selling you the cure at a premium price. But that old knowledge did not die completely. It was just buried under marketing. And that is exactly what we do here at American Fishing every single week. We dig up what they tried to erase, and we give it back to the people who deserve it. To you, who gets up before dawn and drives to the lake while everyone else sleeps. To you, who loads the boat in the dark and feels that peace on the water at sunrise that only someone who truly loves fishing can ever really understand in this life. That knowledge belongs to you by right, and no corporation should keep it from you. And if you want to go even deeper on this path toward fishing independence, remember that the Angler's Vault is waiting in the first link in the description. Inside, you will find everything that pros take years of competition to learn, organized so that any angler at any level can start applying it right away today. If this video showed you something you did not know, leave a like right now. If you know someone who needs to see this information, share this video with them. And if you want to keep rescuing this knowledge with us week after week, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you never miss a single upload. Every like and every share helps preserve the knowledge that the tackle industry wants every American fisherman to forget so they can keep selling you the cure. Fishing is not just a hobby, it is a heritage, and heritage must be protected. I will see you in the next video. Until then, tight lines and good fishing.